right, good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great morning so far and having a wonderful day. I'm Mike Buxton. A little bit about myself. I was born in Key West, Florida. My whole family's from the Florida Keys. Moved to Fort Myers so my mother can go to college. We ended up staying there, priced out of paradise, moving back to Key West. Well, that was a whole plan, moving to Key West. Going back to Key West, but never happened. Got a football scholarship to play at the University of Central Florida. Met my wife our first semester there and have been together ever since. At college, we met in athletic dorms. Played football there, got my undergraduate degree, started working on my graduate degree, and then kind of worked our way up and became a licensed nursing administrator and got my master's in health service administration from the University of Central Florida. We ended up getting married. We have a set of twins that are 7 years old, a boy-girl twins. They're completely opposite, even though they spend every minute together in every way. And then we have a 3-year-old that thinks he's 7 years old, which is our handful. We've been in and out of the emergency room a couple times with him, thinking he can ride a bike and do all these other things way under his age. He has a strong personality. I'm the director of operations. I oversee the nursing home, the assisted living, and the home health here at John Knox. And we're going to be talking about some of those services we offer here, and feel free to ask any questions as we go along. We're going to first start with Oakview Suites, and one of the most common questions I get is, when is it time for me to move to IL to assisted living? Now, every case is completely different. Every situation for every single person has different aspects to it and how it is taking place, but these are some of the indicators that we kind of look at and we see. The most important and probably the most common is that there's 6 ADLs, but we see the decline in bathing, dressing, and grooming as being one of the major reasons, because a lot of times if you're unable to do that in the morning or get up or get going, it ends up happening that you social isolation, you don't go out much, it's very difficult. So we just see a decline in ADLs. Forgetfulness, forgetting taking the meds or taking the right meds, confusion in taking meds. That's a kind of a concern. That's when we look at maybe it's time that you need med management and help. Maybe you can use home health services, but if that gets out of control and continues to have issues, maybe the assisted living is right for you. Frequent falls. We see people start getting unsteady, their balance, their issues, they need help around the clock, especially maybe in the middle of the night if they have to go to the bathroom. They have falls, and during that time, maybe unsafe, it's dark, they're unable to go. We continue to see a pattern. We're looking at that and go, maybe it's the right time. Home safety concerns. Kitchen accidents. For example, we had a gentleman, not from this community, from my last community, that was boiling eggs. He was hungry, wanted eggs. He fell asleep, and all the water ran out, set out the fire alarm, and it was a concern. But he didn't do it once. He actually did the same thing twice in the same week. Boiled eggs, and the same thing happened. That's a concern. We think, well, maybe it's time he needs help with food and other services as well. Maybe we need to look in moving into the assisted living. And then sometimes a spouse is a primary caregiver of another spouse. Burnout happens. It really does happen for the caregiver. They offset a lot of the concerns with the resident or their loved one as a family member. Sometimes they burn out, and it's time to maybe look at the assisted living because they do everything for them. And it takes a wear and a toll onto that individual as that caregiver or the family member to move into the assisted living. So those are some of the indicators. It's not specific for anybody, but those are the main ones that we look at, going, hey, it might be time to move from the IL to our assisted living or to assisted living facility. Demographics, there's 1.5 million residents that live in the assisted living. It is projected to double. There's 30,000 assisted livings across the nation. 1 in 12 are pretty much located in the state of Florida. That is a lot of assisted livings, and we're going to continue to see that grow as the demand continues to grow. During Hurricane Irma, there was a huge generator push, and we saw a lot of mom and pop assisted livings, 3, 4, 5 bedroom assisted livings. A lot of them closed because they couldn't keep up with what the regulatory needs are. However, the hotel style based assisted livings really grew in the last 5 years after COVID. Nobody wanted to move into nursing homes, which is understandable. The care kind of picked up, and regulations kind of stayed stagnant as care needs picked up. So we saw a lot of increase in the assisted living, resort style hotel, assisted livings pick up. There's 86 assisted livings in Volusia County, a lot of options. We know we're the best. An average resident is an 85-year-old female, and the ratios is 1 male to 7 females. That's a crazy statistics. It shocks me every single time. But that is the normal statistics, and it also falls into our organization. I don't know what happens with the men, and myself included, but we don't go assisted livings, I guess, on average. And the average stay is about 1.75 years in assisted living. Ours is the 1-to-8 ratio. We have 4 JKV residents to every community resident. Right now, our current census is 50 residents living in our assisted living. You see it's 49. We'll talk about that, kind of the reason why and why that pattern. Our average census of last year was 47.8. Our average length of stay in our assisted living is about 1.75 years. That varies a lot, but that is a normal average, and our average age is 91. Why do we see it 91? On average, if you live in a CCRC, you live about 6 to 7 years longer. Our assisted living was the converted health center, and what we did during that time, it was a nursing home, it was a 60-bed nursing home. All the 200 and 300 were converted into 1-bedrooms, and the studios on 100 stayed the same. And on the other side, where you saw accounting and home health, that was all the administration back in the day. The who's who: Amanda Delgado is the administrator, Lindsay Curtis is the resident care coordinator, and Jackie Martinez is the administrative assistant. She used to be placed right where Tina is located in that front picture. However, she is now on the 200. So if you're looking for her right now, she is on the 200 wing for Jackie Martinez. Oakview has 60 licensed beds, what we talked about, 18 studio apartments, 31 one-bedroom apartment, and we are 100% on generator. That's a big thing for me. I went through a facility that we had partial generator, so when hurricanes started coming along, when Irma came along, I didn't have power for 8 total days. Awful. It was really difficult. We were making makeshift areas for residents. It wasn't here, it was at another location. We were doing everything we possibly can to do it. Feel free. Here, they had 100% generator. They didn't even know they were on backup power. It just continued to go on. It's a big benefit because a lot of assisted livings currently still have partial. And what they do is, like a room like this, you just generate this room and this room only, and you keep it AC, and residents would live in this type of area. That is what they do. They make a large area, and that is the regulation behind it. Now, some of them have partial, they'll just run the PTEX, but that's kind of what it looks like. We are 100% generator, which is a real big benefit for us. And that's why during hurricanes, we look at all the needs of our Iowa residents, and we sometimes move them into our assisted living if that need is there, because we have that 100% backup generator to make sure that they're safe as well. Talked about the studios, 1, 2, and 300. All the hallways look identical to this pretty much. They have a dining room, a satellite kitchen, activity space inside of it, a washer and dryer. And then we recently in the last year added the resident guard system. Now the resident guard system is because we've seen a demand in residents with cognitive barriers. So we decided, what can we add to make sure that our residents don't just specifically go right into the nursing home in our dementia unit to go, hey, can we make sure that they have the highest level of care, the less level of care as possible before moving to the highest level of care. So we created a resident guard system. We have multiple residents on it. They live in our assisted living. Each door is alarmed. They wear wearables that look kind of like a Fitbit or a phone. It's very dignified. It looks very nice. And it stops them from going in and out of the doorways. So it's a very nice feature to have. So if a resident does have dementia, it doesn't mean that we just put them right into the nursing home. We can be able to keep them in the assisted living, hopefully keep them in the lowest level of care as long as possible before making that transition. A basic layout of our studio apartment, and I want to say this, by the way, if you ever would like a tour, feel free. We'd love to set up a tour for you, even if you don't need it, just to make you feel comfortable. We can show you studios and 1-bedroom apartments. We have no problem doing that. We actually encourage that just to see what it looks like and how that benefit, or family members or loved ones would live inside there in our assisted living. But our basic studio apartment is a kitchenette, so each one has a little kitchenette, a private bath, walk-in shower, 2 closets, and has the basic, AC temperature control and safety features that every assisted living is required to have. Our 1 bedroom is a little bit bigger, kind of has that 1 bedroom and has that living room. Now I will say, going back to that studio, I've seen some very creative layouts with people and what they're able to do with that space. It looks kind of small when you kind of walk in there. It's actually a decent sized assisted living, but they're able to make very creative of laying it out. I've seen whole couches in there with beds and everything else like that. They're very creative on how they lay it out. And I'm just shocked sometimes how imaginative they are with the spaces to create. Some people value little dining room tables. Some people do little, beds with recliners. It's amazing on the layout, and they're capable of making it. As long as they're past the exit, we're okay with it, and we'll make sure that they're safe. The 1 bedroom's a little bit bigger because it's pretty much 2 studios combined, so it's about double the square feet. Has a separate bedroom and walk-in closet, has a kitchenette pantry, same as the studio, has a larger bathroom and walk-in shower, and closets and storage space is an additional inside the 1 bedroom on the 2 and 300 hallway. Our dining experience, we have our dietitian oversees it. It is required. We are fortunate enough to have a dietitian on our property. She works out of the Majestic Oaks, but she also reviews all the meals out of our Oakview Suites to make sure they require the dietary requirements for our residents. We have 3 spacious dining rooms, and they all have a satellite kitchen, which is very benefit. When a lot of places you see, especially in the assisted living world, they plate the food. It has to travel a large distance to get to wherever that location is, sits in a heated plate, and waits for the residents. We have a satellite kitchen. We plate it there. So we bring the food over, and then we plate the food there. So it keeps the food hotter and more nutritious longer. We have alternative menus for the residents, and we provide nourishment and snacks for the residents in the assisted living. Nursing service, medication management is our most common and most commonly used. We ensure that we monitor all the meds, we take care of them. About out of 50 of our residents, 49 use our med management because it's not considered a level of care, and we'll talk about that. But we always make sure. I would say this really comes into play during hurricanes. If we know a hurricane is coming, it's an issue, we make sure there's at least a 7-day supply of medications for every single resident before a hurricane comes. There's never a shortage. We'll make sure we get it. If they need oxygen, whatever the case is, we will make sure that everything's taking place. So we really look at that process and make sure that everybody's taken care of. Appointment and scheduling. We do all the appointments. We do all the scheduling for the residents to make sure they're ready to go out the door, has transportation. Now, I will say and add on to the appointment, our goal is always to keep as much services in-house. We want to make sure that podiatry comes to the residents. We want to make sure if we have to order x-rays or lab work, they come to the residents. It's a lot for a resident to get out, go on an appointment, come back. It takes a lot out of their day and takes a lot of effort to do so. So we try to bring as much services in there. But if it is needed, we will make sure we schedule the appointments. We also take care of the transportation, and we also have our ECC licensure and services, which I will talk about shortly. And you can elect to receive home health services as well. So inside, about 1 in every 5 of our residents will receive on any given time PT, OT, and ST out of our home health and our outpatient. Our personal care assistants, we'll talk about the staffing ratio as well. We are about 1 to 7, which is pretty much nursing home ratios. We are very high. Assistance with ADLs, assistance with showers, provide weekly laundry services and bed changes, trash removal, meal reminders, appointment reminders, and make sure the residents are just ready to go on their daily objectives. Life enrichment program. We also, on our life enrichment program, we also implemented a committee, so they meet once a week to go, what does activities look like? So we kind of make it more geared to the residents that are there. When we look at activities, if we have a 1 to 8 ratio for men, they need to probably be a little bit more female-driven activities sometimes. If our male population picks up or they're more involved, we try to gear it. So we kind of make it geared towards whatever activities are important. I worked in the last location. For some reason, poker was super popular. They wanted to play poker every single day. Don't know, but that's what they want to do. We will make sure we play poker every single day, and we set it up and was ready to play poker every single day. That's just what they wanted to do. So we try to make our activities assorted for what the residents want. And then we have resident council meeting for the residents in the assisted living on a monthly basis. We do lunch outings and community outings as well. Other features, like we talked about, enclosed courtyards, sitting areas, cable television. You also have full access to the common areas, 24-hour security, maintenance assistance, all the other services pretty much in our IL as well. Our regulatory, assisted livings are not regulated by the feds, CMS. They are only state specific. So we are regulated by our state, not by the feds. So it's just the Agency for Healthcare Administration is the main rules and regulations of assisted livings. So they come in here on, I'll go back to that slide, on an annual basis or biannual. Since we have done such a great job, we are on a biannual schedule right now. Last survey was conducted in 2023, December. We were at 0 deficiencies, which we're very proud of. And we should see ECC surveys on at least on a quarterly basis or twice a year. We have not seen them in a while, which, no news is good news, right? When it comes to the state. For at least for me, I don't know. Sorry. Department of Health, they come here. We are regulated a little bit higher in the assisted living world by the Department of Health. They come and do our kitchen inspections, biomedical waste inspections, and they do our group care licensure to make sure that the residents have a safe place to live and it's nice and has a high quality standards. And we also have a Department of Children and Families for abuse, neglect, and exploitations. We also have an ombudsman that visits at least on a quarterly basis, but ours is visits normally on about a monthly basis, and she does a wonderful job. OFU licensure. So I was talking about we have what we call a standard license, and then we have what we call an extended congregate care license. And we have majority of assisted livings have just a standard license. And what does a standard license have? Standard license provide housing, meals, personal care, provides ADL assistance, provides assistance with self-administrated medication and other nursing tasks. Now, they can only do so much, that standard license. So if they get outside of that scope, normally you go to a nursing home for that additional care or provide other services. However, we have what we call extended congregate care licenses, which is an ECC. Now, this is to really kind of preserve, it goes back to our basis. We want our residents to stay in the highest level of care as possible. So if that's an IL for as long as possible, assisted living as possible, that is our goal. So we're fortunate here to have ECC. Very few have what we call the extended congregate care license, and that's a specially licensed to make sure that they stay there. So if a resident was receiving ostomy or colostomy services, they would probably have to move to the nursing home. But we can be able to put a resident under ECC services to make sure that they stay longer inside of our assisted living. If they have received oxygen management, we could put them on ECC services. There's a lot more services that we can provide under our ECC license that a standard assisted living could not provide. Does that make sense? It's a really nice benefit to have, and it comes with a lot more regulatory compliance behind it, but it's a benefit to the residents and the community to make sure that they stay longer in the highest quality service we can provide and keep them in the assisted living longer before going into a higher level of care. These are the ADLs. We'll talk about the triggers for long-term care insurance later, and this is what they go off of. It's eating, bathing, dressing, transfers, toileting, and movement. Those are the 6. That's kind of what the ADLs look like, and that's kind of one of the big measures of what we do and help and support our resident in an assisted living setting. Now, assisted living is really what is said. It's assisting the residents on a regular basis, not doing what the residents required, but assisting, helping them. That's assisting toileting, helping feed, or whatever the case is. They need to be able to assist to live in the assisted living. This is our core staff in the assisted living. The nursing department is the resident care coordinator, God bless you, LPNs, CNAs, PCAs, and med techs. They all require training. Our normal training for our for our staff is they do our basic orientation, then they go and do an orientation in Oakview Suites, and then they do 3 days of on the floor. And we also try to hit different times, because if it's 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. is much different than 11 p.m. at night to 7 a.m. So we try to make sure they see other shifts as well. If they come back to us and say, hey, I'm still uncomfortable, I'm new to this position or new to this career path, we will go back and say, hey, we might need more training to make sure that they're comfortable working. We had a new CNA med tech come in, never done it before, right out of high school. She ended up having 6 days of training to make sure she's comfortable working on the floor and providing medications for the residents. Our dietary departments, cooks and dietary aides, we have 2 designated housekeepers just for the assisted living. And we have activities with activity coordinator and activity assistant, which is a lot of hours for assisted living, which is a wonderful service. This is the state Florida staffing requirements. It's a little confusing to read, but if you go down, the number of residents, it's not about the bed count, it's about how many residents you have inside your building. So right now we're sitting around 49, 50 residents, so we would go down between 46 to 55, you see it across that line. You would move over to the right, and that is the amount of hours that's required for care, 375 a week. 375 hours a week. Our staffing is over 1,000 hours a week. We're almost 3 times the amount of staffing hours that is required from the state in our side of our assisted living. Very impressive. It's a lot more hours than it's required. I think the assisted livings have a lot more leniency. For example, if you're under 17 residents at nighttime, you're allowed to sleep at night. The staff member is allowed to sleep at night if you're under 17 residents. I would not let my staff sleep at night, but you're allowed to by the regulations. But if you look at our staffing, we staff very well inside of our assisted living. And then there's a cost for our assisted living. A studio charge is $5,482. It is broken down by the ALF studio cost for the room and board, and then by the ALF surcharge, or the resident fee, as you see, is $30.60. And then our 1-bedroom suite is $6,732, with a 1-bedroom fee for the room and board is $3,672, with the ALF surcharge of $30.60. Now, if you have a 1-bedroom with a couple, it comes out to $11,230. Now you might say, hey, this is very expensive. When you look at assisted livings, a lot of them have, here's the room and board, and this is what the cost of moving in there. However, majority of assisted livings have what we call levels of care. And what does a level of care cost? Every single thing, it's like an a la carte service. So every single thing you do or you need charges you up. It makes it further charges. So you might move in there. We just went to and visited another assisted living that was just open, that the current to move into a 1-bedroom was $5,000 to move in. However, if you received med management or you need assistance with medication, it was $1,500 on top of that. Now it becomes $6,500. Now, if you're a 1-person assist, it stayed the same until it's max, or you need 2-person, and all of a sudden that's another $750 on top of it. And if you need assistance with showers, it's another cost with it. And all of a sudden, if you needed all the services, it was $8,800 for a 1-bedroom. It can increase really fast for these assisted living, so they charge by the amount of time it takes for the resident and what they project for the care to be. Ours is flat. There's no additional cost. This is what the cost is. There's no levels. On the positive side, that's why a lot of our residents decide to go, we'll do med management on it, because there's no additional cost for the med management. All of our fees are flat. This is what you see, and this is how much it's going to cost. Does that make sense? So, assisted living to skilled nursing, what are the indicators when it's time to move? It's time to look at going, okay, where is our need? So like it goes back to the original slide, it's not always the same. It's not always exactly given. Everybody has different comorbidities and so forth that comes with it, but these are kind of some of the main indicators. One is progressive memory or advancing dementia. When they move in, they might have slight memory issues. However, as the time goes on, their cognition really declines. I had a resident in one of our assisted livings work for the FBI, or that's what he told us. We saw it come to life because all of a sudden he's writing codes down because he was trying to figure out the codes to get out of the memory care. So we see a scratch pad, and this one didn't work, this one didn't work. Okay, well, I think it's time that it's probably not the safest environment for him to be in this assisted living because he was always trying to constantly escape. He was trying to undo the screws on his windows to get out of the windows. And we were like, okay, this is probably not the best setting for this resident. So we need to look at moving on instead of being in this assisted living setting. Increased medical needs. If a resident has a wound, we can do what we call stage 1 or stage 2 pressure ulcer, and we'll do the wounds for that. However, if it's 3 or 4, they can no longer be in the nursing home setting. That is a requirement. So that's above the needs of what we can be able to provide across the board. Feeding tubes, injections, what are the requirements will then kind of kick back and say, hey, this is not really appropriate for living in the assisted living. Total dependence on totaling, feeding, and transfers. Like I said originally, you need to be able to assist. If you're unable to assist, then it looks like it's probably time to move over to the nursing home. We'll try to do everything in our power to keep them at that level. If it's special care, help, PTO, TST, we'll do whatever we can. But at a certain point, we just can't be able to do those services. Declining mobility. If a resident needs a 2-person, they're max, and they can't even help assist getting in and out of bed, it's time, because we are not allowed to have lifts inside of assisted living. So in nursing homes, we have Hoyer lifts, sit-to-stand lifts. Inside of assisted living, we are not allowed to use a lift. If a resident has a recliner that's a power recliner, they have to use the power recliner. We cannot assist using it because they consider that a lift in assisted livings. So if you can't get out of there and you can't use your assistance to get out of the power recliner, and we can't be able to assist, then it's time that they're probably not appropriate to live in the assisted living. If they have chronic health things, they're having issues with their blood or whatever the case is, it might be time. And if a resident becomes bedbound, with our ECC license, we're able to keep a resident bedbound for up to 14 days, but after 14 days, they have to move over to the nursing home. Any questions? God bless you. You don't have to be sorry. Majestic Oaks. Any questions about Oakview Suites? Yes, ma'am. Oh. Sorry, I caught Candace off guard a little bit.
What are the different designations of the people who assist in the the support activities that you're doing, like CNA and all that kind of stuff?
Okay, yeah.
What do they do?
What do they do, like help out wise? Yeah, so we have nurses that work in there. Now, assisted living, you're not guaranteed to have a nurse all the time, but they would do a lot of the nursing aspects of it, like contact physicians, do a lot of those. Then we have CNAs and PCAs, they're personal care assistants. So they help out with all the day-to-day stuff for the resident. That's helping them toilet, to go to the bathroom, to help them get their foods, trays brought in, set them up, make sure that the residents are ready to go for the day, grooming, taking care of their clothing. That's really kind of the PCA. And then we have what we call PCA or CNA MedTech. Now the MedTech designee is that they have to pass a core class, and then they do training with us by a pharmacist or an RN, but we use a pharmacist to do the education, that they have a certificate, a certain amount of hours that they complete to be able to make sure that they have a certain competency level to be able to pass medications for the residents in the assisted living. And then we do tons of education and requirements, and we do a competency on a yearly basis for that. Did that answer your question?
If I understood correctly, it would cost me about $10,000 or just under to go into assisted living right now. Is that correct?
So if it's just yourself, right?
Yes.
So the question is, how much is $10,000 to go into assisted living? No, it's actually, and I can show you the slide, we can go back real quick. If you were moving into a studio, it would be, just for yourself, would be $5,482. That would be your cost to move into our studio for our assisted living. If you were moving in with a 1-bedroom, it would be $6,732.
So where does the surcharge come in then? Oh,
No,
I
no,
see.
no. So those are combined. That's a great question. So the one
Okay,
bedroom
gotcha.
is 3,672, and then the ALF surcharge is 3,060. Those are combined to make $6,732. You're welcome. No, you're fine. That's a great question. So, Mr. Rudolph?
Good morning, Michael. My question is on the cost as well.
Uh-huh.
Being a life care resident at John Knox Village that takes care of independent living, assisted living is not part of the contract at all. Make sure everybody understands that. And what I wanted to ask you was, because we take community, non-contract folks into assisted living, are the charges that we as residents comparable or identical to what the community pays
For assisted living?
for assisted living?
Correct, yes, it'd be assisted living. But
is-
if they move over to the nursing home, it's not. They would have to pay the full price.
Yeah, I understand that part, but just straight assisted living, our cost is exactly as what a non-resident, a community member would pay.
So we have a community fee. They would be required to pay a community fee to move into our assisted living.
Outside folks.
Outside folks to move into our assisted living. There is no community fee for our own residents moving into our assisted living. Yes, you're welcome.
Would you explain about satellite kitchens?
Yep, not a problem. So satellite kitchens, all of our food comes out of the cranes, and so that's where it's all prepared. And we have 3 hallways. Each hallway has what we call a satellite kitchen. I know it's a little confusing. It's a kitchen where we prep and prepare all the meals then be served out. So instead of plating them inside of the cranes and put them on hot plates and then give them out to all the residents, that takes a lot of time. It might cool down during that time, transporting them over. We have a spot where we prepare all the drinks, the food, all everything to make sure it's hot, and it's under wells to keep them warm before we serve out that food. And then each one has, ice and has their own machines to dispense drink, such as if they have, orange juice or whatever juices as well that they would like, or sodas that they could be able to pour, or just straight water or whatever sources. So it's a whole little kitchen that has all the food that they prep to give out the resident before they have their dining experience.
Would you explain about the activities outside of the assisted living area that the residents can enjoy?
Yeah, so the residents can go out. We have a monthly trip to go to a restaurant of their choosing. So if they want to go to Olive Garden, or if they want to go to the Roadhouse, or they want to go to Bahama Breeze, they schedule that and they can go out to a restaurant as well. Then we go have other activities that might be done, such as going to watch a band or whatever the case is. That's not as common, but we do bring residents out to our community and do events. We have a resident that doesn't want to stay in the activities, but enjoys certain classes for exercise, and will come to the IL activities for exercise as well.
What,
Yes, if they sign out and they're capable of coming, yeah.
one last question and we'll continue
Yeah, I
with the
know, yeah,
presentation.
Yep.
When Mr. Rudolph started his question, he began with a statement, and I couldn't quite hear all of that. Could he go over that again and you clarify what he means, please?
Yes. So what he was asking is that the assisted living is not part of your life care contract. And so the question was, if a resident from John Knox Village, do they pay the same as a resident outside of John Knox Village, so the community aspect of it? And what it is that they pay the monthly fees, but if you come from outside the community and move into John Knox Assisted Living, they pay what a community fee is to move into our community. $2,000, right off the bat. Now, their contract does not participate at all into the nursing home aspect of it. So if they do move into the nursing home, they would be required to pay the nursing home rates and all the other aspects that go in part of that contract. No. Yeah, fluffy. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So Majestic Oaks, is rated in the top 5 nursing homes in the state of Florida and rated nationally. The nursing home started in 1979, got what we call a certificate of need, a CON, for 60 beds. And it was where the current assisted living is at. In 2002, Majesco Extended Care Complex was built. It is a 93,000 square foot building, 150 bed nursing home. And when we built it, it was 90 shelter beds and 60 community beds. Shelter beds are beds that only residents of John Knox Village can use, and community beds is what outside residents are used. We have a variance that gives us another 30, so we can only go max at 150 residents, but we can only take max now 90 residents from outside the community and 60 from John Knox Village. I know it's a little confusing, but 90 is our max for community residents, and 60 is the max from John Knox Village to make a total of 150. And from what I understand, I thought this was fascinating. All the residents from Oakview Suites, or from the old nursing home, was that walked down all the way down to Majestic Oaks when they made that move. It was a pretty cool thing. The basic layout of the building, Majestic Oaks is what we call a skilled nursing home, 93,000 square foot building, 10 hallways with 15 rooms per hallway. There's 114 private rooms, 18 semi-private rooms. The semi-private rooms really are the same as a private room, but they share a full-size bathroom. And they have a little privacy curtain that they can pull in between those. I've seen couples move in there where they put both of their beds in one room and they make a whole couch and living room area in the other semi-private room. It's a pretty cool situation that they are able to do and come up with. But I will say, I think this is the best, especially coming from seeing so many skilled nursing homes in my life. 132 full-size bathrooms with a full shower inside of them. If you go to other nursing homes, a lot of the nursing homes are built in the 80s or converted from hotels or whatever, built in the 80s. What they did was put showers at the end of the hallways, and every resident room was just a toilet and a sink. So when you wanted to shower, you would have to put like a robe on or whatever, and you would go down to the shower, take a shower, and then come down the hallway and go back into your room. We don't do that. We have a shower in every single room. So that resident's room, they're comfortable. They never leave outside it when they receive a shower to have that. I feel like it's one of the best and nicest benefit. I mean, I wouldn't want to go down the hallway and then come back for every single shower. That's what I did in all my other nursing homes until I came here. It's a really nice feature having here at John Knox. And we have a full-size backup generator, which is 100% of the building. This is the basic layout. You'll see this is the first floor, 5 wings, and each one has 15 rooms on each wing. Kind of looks like a person in some weird way, right? We'll try to figure out what it looks like sometimes, but I've seen it so many times. This is the basic layout. This doesn't mean it's exactly, but it's just to give you an idea of when we use hallways. The 100 and 200 hallway or wings is a 30-bed rehab unit. 3, 4, 500 is our memory care unit. The 600 is actually what they call the lobby. 7 and 800 is the bed overflow for rehab and our long-term care. And 9, 10, and 11 hallway is the 45 long-term care beds upstairs, with the 1200 being the dining room upstairs. To make it 12 areas, but really what we're using is the 10 wings. So what is a skilled nursing facility? What is a nursing home, and what is a rehab center? A lot of it's kind of intertwined, but I'm going to break it down this way. I thought this was a great way of showing it. But a skilled nursing facility is kind of what we're really designated as. But we have portions of a nursing home, and we have portions of a rehab center. We're skilled nursing, majority of it. That means is that in our rehab area, they're coming there for nursing stay and rehab. They have short term. It could be days to weeks to a couple months. Normally they're Medicare or have some insurance. Rehab is moderate, and they receive skilled nursing and post-hospital recovery. That's our rehab unit per se. Then we have a nursing home. That is our long-term care. That is what we look at for our residents that are in our long-term care. They're not recovering. They're probably going to stay there for a long period of time, if not forever in their life, and they're receiving the care to be able to continue for the day-to-day aspects of their life, such as med management, nursing care, CNAs, and assistants that they need on a day-to-day basis. And that normally is private pay or is under Medicaid, is what we see a lot of. And then we have a rehab center. Now, a lot of nursing homes consider themselves rehabbed. We have a rehab aspect, so we rehab. You can go up to about 3 hours a day. Now, there is LTAC units, or if you see this PAM Health is what they're kind of looking at, that would be about 3 to 6 hours a day of rehab. And that would be more of like an intensive rehab. You have to have certain conditions, such as a stroke, to go into one of those units. There's 12 different things, and that would be covered, but they don't count as nursing home stays if you go to one of those units. Then a lot of times they're a step down, they would go there, and then they would come to a nursing home afterwards, after the rehab, and try to get stronger as well. Any questions on that? We are currently in the middle of remodeling. If you've been down there, if not, I'd be more than happy to take you on a tour or have you tour set up. We started in Q3 of last year. We are moving wing to wing. We are trying to make sure that it doesn't impact the residents and making it as quiet and seamless as possible, so it's not impacting the day-to-day of our residents and their lives. We're remodeling the hallways, restrooms, and we will be doing the common areas as well. These are what the aspects of what we're doing, remodeling the rooms from flooring, lightings, beds, dressers, everything you see cosmetic. We're not touching much in the bathrooms because that would change the whole scope of what it is. But we are doing almost everything else you see down in a residence room, from wainscoting coating and back. Has anybody been in there yet? How's it look? Good, good. This is the before of a resident room, and this is the after. It doesn't really take into consideration everything, but that's kind of what it looks like. I think it looks a lot better in person, personally. This is the hallway, what we're working on. That's the flooring, lighting, communal areas. We're doing all the furniture in those areas, and that's what it looks like afterwards. If you like, the 100, 200 are completely done. We will be doing the common areas outside of that and doing the lobby, and that'd probably be our last phase. We are taking about 6 to 7 weeks per hallway. We have completed 5 of the 10 hallways, and we are on the 6th hallway right now as we speak. So we're doing pretty good time overall, and hopefully be done by the end of the year, if not in Q1 of next year. Nursing homes, there's 15,600 nursing homes, 693 in the state of Florida and 29 in Volusia County. We are seeing a steady decline in nursing homes, not an increase in assisted livings. Why is that? It is the most regulated, most risk, and after COVID, there was a huge decline in profitability. So a lot of these for-profits and everything started selling, and you'll see a lot of changes in that industry of changing out. During those 3-4 years, 91% of nursing homes were not profitable, and it's around 85% of nursing homes are not profitable right now as we speak. So we really haven't seen that uptick. And the state of Florida put a moratorium, which means that you can't build a nursing home for over 25 years. Now, every year, they're putting out a list of how many beds are available in every single county to try to build more nursing homes, because the demand is still there for building nursing homes. They need more nursing home beds in certain areas, especially in key locations such as the villages and so forth like that, in coastal areas. They need much more nursing homes, but the liabilities with hurricanes and everything else is declining, making nursing homes decline. 1.4 million residents live in nursing home. It is expected to double by 2050. So we are expected to continue to see the increase in nursing homes, and then we'll see a decline from the 2050s is what we're expected. 83% of residents are older than the age of 65. That means 70% are younger. Yes, that's correct. There's a lot of facilities that take a lot younger residents. Our community only accepts older adults, a certain age, to come into our community. Same requirements as to move into John Knox. I think that's really important, because I worked in a community, for example, that had a resident that was a gunshot victim that was 21 years old living in our community, and then all of a sudden the roommate was an 88-year-old gentleman. That is a huge difference in what they like and enjoyable in their lifestyle in one room right there, right? So there's a big difference. Ours is a certain age, and we try to make sure if we do our few semi-privates that they're all work and they have the same interest and they are comfortable living together in the same area. 70% of people who reach the age of 65 will need long-term care at some point. So if you're over 65 years old, which I'm assuming everybody is in here, 70% chance you will need long-term care at one point in your life. And their ratio is 1 male to every 3 females inside of a nursing home. John Knox right now, Majestic Oaks, every 1 resident that's JKV, there's 2 community residents. 69.7% of Majestic Oaks residents are above the age of 85. Our average resident age is 87.58, and the ratio is 1 to 3. And this is the breakdown. I just think it's pretty interesting. We have 6 residents over the age of 100 years old. Pretty impressive, right? Majestic Oaks types of stays. We have a temporary stay. That is temp, as a lot of people call it, not covered by Medicare, normally come into our health center. And they're responsible for medication and supplies and medical meals. We will go with that a little bit further in detail at the end of this presentation. Then we have rehabilitation services. That's normal time is Medicare and insurance. And then we have permanent placement, and that is normally private pay or Medicaid. This is an average nursing home rehab stay. You come in on day 1, majority of the time. So Advent is our main feeder, and that's probably where you're gonna go, Fish Memorial Hospital, if you went to the hospital. Well, their hospitalists start in the middle of Orlando and work all their way out, and when they're done for the day, drive back. That's kind of the system they work. So what does that mean for us? That means that normally at Fish, it's the last day for that discharged physician to sign off on that paperwork for them to be discharged to go into our nursing home. So we get majority of our admissions from 4 p.m. to like 6, 7 p.m. at night. That's tough on a resident. You've been the whole day in the hospital and then now are you gonna come over to the nursing home? We don't dictate that. We have no capabilities of dictating that. That is the hospital discharging and to make sure everything's ready to go and having a physician sign off. But that's on average what we see. So the first day is just getting comfortable coming into the nursing home. Day 2, we'll do an evaluation for PTOT and ST. And then day 3 on, it's 30 to 60 minutes of PTOT, ST, depending on what is needed per individual therapeutic goal. And then before the day 3, so normally around day 4 or 5, we do what we call a home evaluation. That means that you will, if you're receiving a rehabilitation services, we will go out with you and test out your house. You're like, well, what's that have to do? Well, we had a resident, that wasn't ours, we did a home evaluation. We got her all prepared. We're like, she is ready to go home. She's back to where she is. We pull up to her house. It was a condo. She had 9 steps she had to get up that she never told us about before she went into her house. 9 steps. Well, we have a new goal we must have to achieve before she's able to go home. That's to make sure she is safe to go home. Now she has to go up 9 steps to make sure she's capable of going into her home. That was our new goal, and we're glad we did a home evaluation than just sending her home. But for our residents, majority of the time, we do a home evaluation, making sure rugs are safe to step on. There's grab bars in the areas that are needed for you to get in and off the toilet or practice all the techniques you learn from Majestic Oaks. You're capable of doing them inside your house. So we just want to make sure you are safe inside your house before we do a discharge, because there might be a new goal that we have to do to make sure you're ready to go home. And 3 days before discharge, you will get a notification letter, and then the day of, you'll be discharged with home care, majority time, or outpatient therapy. Any questions? That is a normal, typical stay. This is the Majestic Oaks department, nursing department, dietary, housekeeping, therapy, activities, maintenance, and administration. I want to make sure I get through all the slides. We have 257 employees that currently work at Majestic Oaks. About 40% of all the staff work at Majestic Oaks on our campus. Here's the who's who. Kenny Rodriguez is the administrator. Amanda Vasquez is the director of nursing. She started as a nighttime LPN and worked her way up to the director of nursing. Tina Masari is the CDM. Sheila Joseph is a registered dietitian. She's been here for 25 years. Lucia Adina started as CNA, worked her way up as an admission coordinator. Rachel Wright is therapy director. Philip Camelgarn is the housekeeping manager. Andrea Silvi is the Alzheimer's manager. She started working here, left, and came back because she enjoyed working here so much. Jermaine Wood is the business office. She's been here for over 25 years. And Melinda is the director of social services. Majestic Oak Services, basic services that provide are very similar to a lot of the other skilled nursing home facilities. Rehab services, 24-hour care, ADLs, med management, dietary services. We offer all types of food from puree to mechanical to feeding tubes, everything, services in between. And we have a higher level of care inside of our nursing home. Additional services provided. Like I said, our goal is always to try to keep the resident inside the nursing home. So we try to bring as much services in as possible. For example, if we have x-ray services, we are able to bring an x-ray in and we can actually order stat and hopefully have them here within an hour to do an x-ray if needed. Lab work comes in, we can do swallow studies or a feed test to make sure, and so forth. PT, this is the basics for PT, bed mobility, transfers, ambulation. Outpatient, total eating dressing, kind of what you do on a basic day. If you're living at home, we're trying to get you ready. Can you use an oven? Can you use a washer and dryer? Can you do those type of services at home? And speech therapy, cognition, swallow study, and so forth. And we can actually do feeds test inside there and make sure you're capable of doing at home. Regulatory compliance, I'm gonna shoot through these real quick. We are regulated by, we're the most regulated industry. This goes back between nuclear power plants and us. CMS, for Center for Medicare Services, they are the feds, they have the federal oversight. Then we have the Agency for Healthcare Administration. They are the state. The feds normally, CMS puts it on the state to do surveys, but it's not uncommon for CMS to come out and do a survey. We have Department of Health. They do our kitchens inspections. They do biomedical waste. They do our infection control inspections. Then we have Department of Children and Families. We are required to report abuse, neglect, exploitation. Abuse, we have 2 hours to report it. Does it matter if it happens at night? No. Does it matter if it's on a weekend at night? No. Does it matter if it's on a weekend at night on a holiday? No, it does not matter. We have 2 hours to report it. We're a very transparent organization, report everything, and we make sure we do an investigation. So there's many times on holidays I get a phone call, we're working at it and making sure we're reporting and doing our due diligence on the accusation. We don't get many of them, but we have to report them all. We are a 5-star facility. That's by CMS. You can go on Nursing Home Compare, that's their website, and there's 3 things that they measure on. That's health inspections, staffing, and quality measures, and we are a 5-star facility. Agency for Healthcare Administration, they have their own staffing rating, which is quality of care, quality of life, and administration. I just put on there because we're 5-star for every single thing across the board. That's just to brag a little bit. So that'll just appease me. Majestic Oak survey results, we actually had for the last 4 years in a row, we had back-to-back 0 deficiency surveys. The last survey we received 1 deficiency, and they pretty much told us, hey, we're only citing you because if we cite you again for 0 deficiency, you're probably gonna have feds come back behind and make sure we're doing a good enough job. That's pretty much what they said to us. So we're having really good results, and they come with what we call a point system, but nonetheless, we're a 5-star facility and survey results. I wanna get to the end, which is the most important, which everybody's asking for. This is our staffing standards. Compared to everybody else, we staff a lot higher at Majestic Oaks than in everyone else. And you can see across the top is we're almost about an hour more than the state and national average. Here is Majestic Oaks contracts. I want you to know, if you are a John Knox Village resident, this only really has the impact of the cost that it will take. But for your insurance, it's your home nursing home because you're part of a CCRC life care contract. So you are guaranteed admission and a contract to move into our nursing home, no matter what. That is part of the rules. So you might have different insurances and everything else. We might have to fight and do a lot of work on our end, but you're guaranteed to be under our insurance. So if you have insurance covered, to go to a nursing home. They might tell you, hey, you might need to go to some place in Sanford or Daytona. No, you're part of a life care contract, you go to Majestic Oaks. Does that make sense? I get a lot of questions. It's part of, you're required. They're required to take it. Now, we might lose on the contract. It's fine. You're part of John Knox Village. We will take care of you no matter what. This is the cost. If you are in our healthcare center, private pay, it's $376 a day. That doesn't include all the other things such as supplies and everything else like that. That is the cost. If you're in our long-term care, it's $376 a day. If you're private pay for rehab service, it's $582. If you're part of our contract, we have the additional meal costs and everything. That's 68 days. I have an example to show you to hopefully clear out some of the things. Other questions? Then we have our memory care center, which is additional surcharge because of the higher staffing, more activities, and more programming that we have in our memory care unit. So, if you are temporary transfer to our nursing home, so if you just transferred to our nursing home from home or whatever the case is and didn't go to the hospital, you will continue to receive your monthly service fee on your IL bill, okay? So whatever your monthly fee is. No additional MO room rates or charges at all. So there's no charges on that. You will receive a daily medical meal upcharge of $68 a day. I'll show you this at the end of how this comes out. And supplies will be billed to the residents. Pharmacy and therapy services will be billed on your insurance or supplement insurance. And if you're temporary memory care, you will be added to the surcharge. And I will show you that at the end, okay? But those are the basics of temporary Majestic Oaks private pay. Now, if you're a temp and you come in on your health insurance or Medicare, residents must have a qualifying stay. That's 3 nights in a hospital. That's 3 nights. Doesn't matter if you come in at 11:59. If you're admitted at 11:59, that's a night. 12 o'clock, that's a night. But 3 nights, and your monthly service fee will continue on your IL bill. However, there's no additional cost for your room. There's no additional medical meal upcharge. And pharmacy supplies, therapy will be billed through your insurance and copay charged. Okay? And lastly, a permanent. I have an example after the slide. Permanent transfer to Majestic Oaks. Majestic Oaks uses the most recent current monthly fee. So whatever your last monthly current fee is what you would be charged. Majestic Oaks has an additional medical meal that's at $68 a day. That's going to be on top of it. And then you would, if you work, if you go and use our memory care, it'd be that memory surcharge fee. That would be your cost for a permanent fee. And it raises on a yearly basis like you would inside of IL. So here is probably what you're waiting for. If here is the example what your fee would be if you move to Majestic Oaks, temp or perm. So for single IL resident, it's your IL monthly service fee. So whatever your last monthly service fee, let's say you're being charged $3,000 a month. That is your monthly fee. Then at $68 a day, use the example of 30 days in a month, it's $2,056. Your total monthly fee, if you don't use any other services, such as the memory care, would be $5,056 for your total monthly fee. If you're not part of a life care contract, it's close to $12,000. A big difference. If you're in our memory care, if you're in semi-private, it would be additional $2,500, $2,580, and then the private would be $3,630. That is if you are single apartment. That's the cost that you would pay. So let's say your monthly fee is $3,000, $68 a day for the month. It would be $5,026. Any questions? Now, if you are a couple, and your second person fee, it'd be $1,423. Your med meals will go on at $68 a day, and your total cost for the second person is $3,479. That is your monthly fee to be in the nursing home, plus the other surcharges. The Oakview Suites residents, if you come out from the community, does not get this benefit. Obviously, moving into the community is a benefit itself, but comes with it. Any questions? All right. Payer sources. We also have other payer sources, obviously private pay. There's VA in attendance. So if you served or your spouse served in the military, you can receive VA benefits. And we also accept long-term care insurance as well. And it's not limited. So long-term care insurance benefits, benefit triggers. Pretty much you need to do an assessment to make sure you meet the criteria. What is majority of the criteria for your long-term care benefits? Either you have a cognitive impairment or 2 of the 6 ADLs I showed in that graph trigger. So if you, let's just say you need mobility and toileting, that's 2 of those, that would be a trigger for that. And then you could be able to trigger onto your long-term care policy. Does that make sense? Also, you gotta look in your policy. There's also a thing called elimination period, which is like a deductible measured in time, right? So what's that mean is like, let's say you move into the assisted living. It's 60 days out. You have to move into the assisted living and then wait 60 days before that elimination period is over for that plan to trigger and start. Any questions? We are starting a 24-hour, that's Majestic Oaks, by the way, and we will have time quickly for question and answers. But we have 24-hour caregivers starting at John Knox Village. We have continued to see the demand and been asked this, and we are starting this program. Doesn't mean it's just 24-hour caregiving. We are trying to make sure we cover and take care of the residents in certain situations, such as maybe if a spouse or the main caregiver is admitted to the hospital and then they have a spouse at home that needs additional care. So there's emergency services or support staff discharged to higher level care. Like say you want to move back to IL and you were from the nursing home and you want to trial something, we can start and have a caregiver 24/7 or certain hours of the day at night and practice on what we taught to make sure you're comfortable. We can do those services. But we are looking, we've continued to hear a demand of residents that want to stay in IL. They do not want to move to a nursing home. They do not want to move into the assisted living, but they want to stay in their buildings. Stay at home. We started these services where maybe they just need 8 hours a day to get the day started, or maybe they just need 4 hours, or maybe they 12 hours a day during the day just need assistance, and at nighttime they don't need it. We're trying to offer all those services to make sure that the residents are taken care of and that they're continuing to stay at the highest level of care and make sure that they're taken care of. And we continue to hear that demand, so we are starting this program, and we're starting it May 5th. If you have any questions, please contact extension 402. And that is my presentation. Any questions?
Mike, the long-term care coverage, I've heard so many war stories over the years about the difficulty of getting, quote, qualified. There's probably a better word for that. Does your function manage that process of making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed?
Yeah, we assist in that process. So they used to send out a lot of nurses or whatever from the insurance companies to do assessments. It's kind of switching over. Now we see sometimes that they want our own staff to do the assessment to make sure that they qualify for it, and we fill out all this documentation, and then we submit their monthly, the administrator for the assisted living, Amanda Delgado, submits monthly requirements to make sure that they meet that as well, so they continue to receive their policy. So we assist to make sure it happens and can help you out and review it if you need as well.
Mike, thank you very much for this. I think you've cleared up a lot of questions that we might have had. And maybe you said this, but if somebody is independent, moves to assisted living, needs to go to Majestic Oaks, because assisted living is not part of our contract, when we go to Majestic Oaks, are we still considered John Knox resident, or are we considered community person and we have to pay those fees?
Yeah. So the question, you are still a John Knox resident. You will always be considered a John Knox resident. So you will always have that benefit forever through that whole process. Any other questions? Oh.
How many years of life does it add being in a CCRC? I thought I heard you say something.
So on average, the studies show, because of socialization, people looking after people, and our meetings that we have to review incidents and accidents and all this services we could put in place, 6 to 7 years on average.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I do want to add, Mike's presentation has already been posted to the portal under the Coffee With, under the information cube.
It was a good presentation. You threw out lots of numbers and facts. I was wondering if you can make available, or is it available, basically all of your talk today, especially with the figures at the end, so we can study it more at our leisure.
Yeah, so it will be posted on YouTube, and you can be able to go through there, pause the slides, and you'll be able to actually see the slides, so you can screenshot it or write down that information on there and just use those numbers so you can kind of get a baseline of the cost. But if you need further, be more than happy to reach out, and I can send that over to you as well, the slides.
It's on Cubic though.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
It's been a wonderful presentation. I'm a caregiver of my mother, who was in independent living on nasturtium for about 10 years. She spent 3.5 years in assisted living, and she's been at MO now for about 8 months. And I can tell everybody, I'll ask a question: how many people want to go to MO? Right? Well, Mike and his staff and everyone has made every one of my mother's transitions from IL to assisted living to MO smooth as silk. The only criticism I have is the first 3 or 4 days at MO are very confusing for patients. They've lived in one place and now they're in a completely different environment. And your staff did everything to make me calm down. You know, I mean, I was freaking out all over the place. Like, what about this? What about that? And the staff is wonderful. And the RNs are so good and have been here for so long, a lot of them, that they will do anything to make your patient happy.
Thank you.
Really, it's a wonderful, wonderful whole care community.
Thank you very much. And I will stress on that we're very happy and proud of our staff. For our nurses, our average length of service is about 8.5 years on average for the nurses there. So they've really been there a long time and know the systems. And, you know, like you said, our goal is to make comfortable not just the residents but the family. So thank you so much, and I'll make sure to share that as well to our staff.
I think that's it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.